Hey, Peps, can this thing play Minecraft music?
Sure can't. Warner Brothers will copyright strike me and break my knees.
Horrible. Give it up, baby. Minecraft is a game that needs absolutely no introduction. Its legacy cannot be understated, and its success can also not be understated. It truly is a legendary game.
Terraria is better.
Well, I agree, Terraria is also good. Whether it's better is up to personal preference. Nice try, Mimo, that's not gonna work. But even with how great Minecraft is, there's a lot of times where you feel like you just don't want to play the game. You get that initial 2 weeks in and then suddenly you just give up on the game for whatever reason. It's an odd phenomenon that a lot of people seem to fall into, and I didn't quite understand it myself until I played the aged mod pack. And then I realized, man, vanilla Minecraft doesn't have a lot of content, really does it? I mean, yeah, comparing modded Minecraft to vanilla Minecraft is not really a fair comparison, but comparatively, the vanilla game does not really have that much content. And even looking through most of Minecraft's major updates, there aren't a ton of things that are added in these updates. Oh sure, sometimes you add one really cool thing, but back in the day, Minecraft used to add a ton of really cool things. But nowadays, it seems like we're lucky if Mojang doesn't screw something up. I'm sure all the redstone enjoyers probably know this pain all too well. But instead of complaining about Minecraft, I'm going to also offer solutions!
Solutions that are going to be ignored, as you will be shouting into the void like the fool you are.
Well, maybe this time the void will finally respond to my calls. So with that, let's actually find out how we can improve Minecraft. Oh, also that opening bit was not a joke. I actually cannot use any Minecraft music. The main reason being is that any and all Minecraft music seems to be getting copyright struck because of the movie. Before, if you got copyright struck for Minecraft music, it was typically a copyright troll. But this is not a copyright troll. This is just a dick move.
Classic mega corporation move. And certainly this won't hurt the reputation of their prestigious movie.
Oh, how could they do that? They've already done enough damage with the previews. Anyways, on to the main topic. Let's just get the obvious one out of the way, that being the worthlessness of copper. It wouldn't be so bad if copper was more rare, but the thing is, the way they've implemented copper, it's made iron a lot harder to get. And while that would be fine, the problem is copper's pretty much worthless. Literally, copper serves zero purpose outside of decorative blocks. I mean, that's fine and all to have decorative blocks. The problem is, why is copper so damn common? I mean, why is there not even, like, copper tools? We had copper tools in real life. Why does Minecraft not have copper tools? That's it. That's my solution. Add copper tools. Or if you want to get interesting, allow the copper golem to exist. I even had this entire idea of oxidization. The golem itself would get weaker and slower over time as it oxidizes. And when it fully oxidizes, it'll become even slower and basically like a statue. It would work exactly the same how the vanilla oxidization works, and you can just remove the oxidization with an axe. It'd give you a cheaper, more reliable way to have golems without, you know, spending a lot of iron. And it would give it a use.
That's a great idea. They're never gonna implement it.
I know, but if someone wants to take this idea, feel free to. In fact, if you want to take any idea I propose and make into a mod, feel free to. Don't even have to credit me. But while copper's the obvious one, there is a couple other things that are as obvious, such as the fact that some mobs just serve absolutely no purpose. And while that's fine for something like, say, camels or polar bears, why does something like the snow golem have to suck? But you might say, infinite snowballs! And yeah, that's great, except you need to get a bunch of snow to begin with for the snow golem. Which implies you probably have an easier way to get snow to begin with. Unless it's like a niche scenario where you just need a bunch of snow for whatever reason, there's not much reason to have a snow golem farm. And on top of that, they kinda just suck. So how do we fix it? By giving the snowballs rocks and making them deal damage? No, instead I have a more unique solution. To put it simply, give the snow golems a bit more knockback and, wait for it, hear me out, it can pass through friendly targets. One of the worst interactions is between snow golems and iron golems. They work antithetical to one another, especially if the snow golem hits the iron golem, because that means the iron golem will draw aggro to the snow golem and then kill it, essentially rendering the snow golem pretty useless. And unlike having a bunch of iron golems, a bunch of snow golems tends to be pretty worthless. A lot of times they're just going to end up hitting one another and they're just knocking each other back. They don't do any damage to one another, but they're not going to accomplish anything. With this theoretical change, the snow golem will finally be able to be useful, and suddenly have synergy with the iron golems instead of anti-synergy. And suddenly you got a lot more reason to make snow golems outside of infinite snow. But while we're on the subject of useless mobs, let's get the big one out of the way. The Phantom. I hate these things. I wish they were deleted. I am in the majority with this one. Never in my life have I seen an entire mob that just made the game objectively worse by its existence. Not only do these things attack you at night, not only do they punish you for taking the hard way out and actually fighting through the night, they don't serve much of a purpose until the very late game. And even then, they're kinda worthless.
But the Phantoms drop the Phantom Membrane, an item used to repair the Elytra and craft slow-falling potions.
Okay, that would be a fair counterpoint, except mending exists, and by this point you probably have a mending book lying around, just for the Elytra. And the slow fall potions, yeah, that's fine, but that's only really useful in the fight with the Ender Dragon. And even then, the skilled Minecraft players have found interesting ways of not using this sort of thing, namely with water buckets and boats, so yeah. So even then, its uses are still kind of questionable. So yeah, these things serve literally no purpose other than just to be annoying. They're not even fun to fight on top of that, because every time you hit them, they just run away. So on top of being annoying mobs that serve absolutely no purpose, they're not even easy to deal with. In fact, you can probably apply this to most of the added mobs recently. Especially the Sniffer. I really don't know how to fix the Sniffer, to be honest. Other than add some kind of cool and unique item that you can only get from the Sniffer. That isn't a decorative block. Because let me put into words just how absolutely lame the Sniffer is. You are quite literally bringing back an extinct species by digging up the archaeological remains of it. Imagine if suddenly humanity brought back the dodo bird, and then it just turns out to be a slightly different colored chicken. How disappointing would that be? That's basically the Sniffer in a nutshell. In fact, they should add all of the mob boat mobs, because realistically, what's the point? Why the hell could they not implement all these mobs in the same update?
Oh, that's an easy one. The in-game store for Bedrock Edition.
Mabo, that was a spoiler!
And you're not the boss of me.
Since you spoiled it, I'm gonna move on to the other things. That being, there is not a ton of reason to explore. Yeah, maybe in the early days, you're like, oh, I need to get X resource. And yeah, that's a good reason to explore. But after a certain point, once you find a really good cave system, you really don't need anything else, because oftentimes cave systems link into other cave systems. So the solution to this is just add more structures, really. Doesn't even have to be something complicated, like more pillager structures, more villager structures, more everything, really. Doesn't even have to be that interesting. Make it like an old house or something. One of the coolest structures in the game is the Woodland Mansion. It's just this giant mansion you find in the middle of nowhere that's apparently been built by the pillagers. Now imagine if you could find something like that all around the world. Well, like, smaller scale. This would suddenly incentivize a lot more exploration. They also should really buff a lot of the items you get. Sure, something like bones and rotten flesh are nice and all, but they're not hard to get. You're quite literally going to get those naturally just by fighting mobs. And things like saddles, glass bottles, and other nonsense can actually be obtained via fishing. And yeah, that's another weird problem with Minecraft. Minecraft's resource acquisition is insanely weird. Like, you would think something like leather armor, being technically the weakest armor you can get, would be easy to get, right? Well, no. You've got to find a cow or a horse. You then need to find another cow or another horse, if you're a monster, breed them, then slaughter them, and then you can make leather armor. But by this point in the game, you probably already have a full set of iron armor, or at the very least have a villager ready to trade you for said armor. Yeah, why the hell is leather so hard to get in the base game? Like, literally, there's a ton of mods that literally just make rotten flesh be able to turn into leather, and it's so convenient. Seriously, why the hell is leather of all things the most hard to get item in the game. I swear I could get diamonds before I could even get leather, it seems like. Simple solution, make leather drop a lot more commonly. It should not be this difficult to get a basic set of armor. But there's also the topic of the villagers. I don't actually want to change too much about the villagers. I actually quite like the current state the villagers are in. However, I do feel like mending does need to be nerfed in some regard. I still want it to be obtainable via villagers. I just don't think it should be easily obtainable. This thing should honestly be a lot more expensive and probably cost something like upwards of blocks of emeralds, because mending is just that powerful of an enchantment. And since we're nerfing mending, let's also buff anvils. Anvils get a slight durability buff as well as a slight reduction in XP requirement. Because, yeah, seriously, this XP requirement gets ridiculous at certain levels. It's only fair that if we're gonna nerf mending, we might as well buff the other methods. As well as that, I feel like a few extra villagers would not actually hurt. Something like, say, a gardener villager or a lumberjack villager would actually be really cool. The gardener villager especially I want in the game just as a dirt trader. Because yeah, oftentimes you have entire chests full of dirt. I know I at least have one entire double chest just filled with nothing but dirt oftentimes. And most of the time, you just throw it in the garbage, aka a lava pit. Well, what if you could turn that dirt into emeralds? Suddenly you're now more inclined to do some landscaping. Oh, and also that's another reason why you want to nerf mending. You don't want it to be obtainable too easily. I feel like the gardener villager could very easily give, like, flower trades, for instance. And, like, at the final stage, you get, like, the really rare flowers. Because at points, getting these flowers can be a pain in the ass to get, and this would basically speed up the process and make it a lot easier.
What about exploring? Wasn't your entire point to have people explore?
Well, now they have options! I'm also incredibly biased because I actually really like setting up villages. I also feel like something like a horse trainer villager would actually be really interesting as well. And suddenly horse armor also becomes slightly less useless. As now it's no longer exclusive to just dungeons, you can just buy it outright from the horse trainer villager. This would also probably include something like leads. Because let me tell you, getting leads can be some of the most painful tasks imaginable, as not every biome can spawn a slime, and even some that can, well, slimes seem to be either the most common thing imaginable or the rarest thing imaginable, depending on what your seed is. And the only time I've managed to get leads reliably is for the wandering traders, but that's only because they end up dying through, well, quite a few means, really. Ironically enough, not by my hand, but rather through other means. Way too many things to list. Would also be kinda neat if you can maybe turn the wandering trader into, like, a permanent villager, but that's a bit of an ask. I mean, it would be a really cool idea, and you can do things like having him go look for certain items and he'll come back with new trades. But again, that's quite the ask. But since I also briefly brought it up, let's talk about fishing. I actually don't want to do too much to fishing. Yeah, fishing is insanely overpowered in Minecraft, but I'm kind of okay with that, low-key. The only thing I would change is just making it less likely for you to get god-tier fishing rods. Because I swear, I've gotten, like, god-tier fishing rods, like, 3 times. And I don't do a ton of fishing in Minecraft. Simple solution, just make getting god-tier rods a lot less common. In my opinion, you probably should not be able to just get a random fishing rod with luck of the sea, lure, and mending, as well as unbreaking, just for free. But then there's also things like horse armor. Yeah, I've mentioned I think horse armor is pretty useless. A lot of that kind of just has to do with the fact that horses in Minecraft are only good for traveling, and that's about it. In combat, they're pretty detrimental because they're often going to take more hits because, well, bigger hitbox than you. And I don't know how you improve horses for combat, but I do want to improve horse armor. My solution? Armor trims.
Slight correction time. He actually means the template, not the trim itself. Please do forgive him. He is very stupid. After all, he does not understand the great enlightenment that is Terraria.
Meanwhile, for the last time, stop advertising Terraria! This is a Minecraft video!
I love tormenting him so much.
The same system now applies to horse armor as well, same material and everything. That way, horse armor can be a lot more decorative. And on top of that, why are armor trims only one use only? And on top of that, they're ridiculously expensive to make copies of. Why? These things are just cosmetic. That's just dumb, especially since these things take diamonds, or even more expensive depending on which armor trim you're talking about. My solution? Give them a durability. And then suddenly the duplicating makes makes a lot more sense. And instead of duplicating the item, you instead replenish the durability on said item. In my opinion, this would give armor trims a lot more use and potentially a lot more interesting. As suddenly now you're a lot less disappointed to find an armor trim and it's like, oh wow, an armor trim, fantastic! Because, yeah, these things are a cool idea, poorly executed. But now it's time to talk about the big stuff, that being the bosses, or rather the lack thereof bosses. Yeah, there's technically only 4 bosses in Minecraft: the Elder Guardian, the Wither, the Ender Dragon, and the Warden. And one of those you're not even supposed to fight, technically. Yeah, it's kind of weird how there isn't really a lot of bosses. My solution is to repurpose existing structures, make them bigger, and add bosses to them. You know, like the Desert Temple, the Jungle Temple, that sort of thing. That's just 2 easy bosses you can slap in right then and there. You can even keep the old structures as well. Have them spawn alongside the new, more dangerous structures. Or alternatively, you can just make them a part of the new structures, but that's another story.
You know what has a lot of bosses?
Let me guess. Terraria.
Correct.
Mimo, this is not a video about Terraria, this is a video about Minecraft!
Don't blame me, I'm just spitting facts.
Oh, fine. But there is one more thing to talk about, and that's the happy guess from the recent Minecraft Live. I would do just one thing, and that's reduce the polygon count on the saddle. It feels weirdly out of place because it's way too detailed. Vanilla Minecraft does not have that much detail in certain things, and this item feels way out of place because it's too detailed for the vanilla game, really. And while there's more, there isn't really much else I want to add right now. That's just kind of my big laundry list of things I would personally want in an update, or multiple updates rather. I could go on, but honestly, this is never going to be implemented. The main reason being Mimo spoiled it earlier. The in-game store for Bedrock Edition. Yeah, on top of Bedrock players dealing with Bedrock, they have to deal with the in-game store. Because go figure, microtransactions make a lot of money. And while there's a lot of cool stuff on the marketplace, you could probably find something similar for free. Now thankfully there's nothing pay to win about the Minecraft. Turns out I was wrong, and actually at one point, yeah, they did even offer cheats.
Common Microsoft L.
How the hell did you get in here, Mimo? Or, however, it's really funny how Microsoft took a limitation of the console market and then turned it into a giant cash cow. Because if you don't know, the consoles actually could not get skins for the longest time. They only really had packs. Some were free, some were paid, but that was mostly a limitation of the consoles, and you couldn't really import skins just due to how consoles work. Especially when it came to copyrighted characters like, say, Mario, for instance. Yeah, Nintendo was not going to allow that sort of thing. And some of these creations are really interesting and very cool, but they're just a map at the end of the day. They even had a recent collaboration with Hello Kitty. This kind of feeds into my theory that Mojang is just not allowed to update too much because it might break certain things on the storefront. A lot of people might call Mojang lazy, and at first that does seem to be the case until the April Fool's update rolls around. In fact, last year was the Poisonous Potato update, which added a ton of stuff. Yeah, this was not a low-effort update. None of the April Fool updates are low-effort. If Mojang was lazy, they would not put in any effort even for the April Fool's update. But it does seem kinda weird to me how they can put in all this effort for a one-time update that's just going to be undone the next update, yet is not allowed to make major changes or do anything else like that. In fact, as of recording this, April is coming up real soon, so it's probably going to be another big update which will maybe prove my point, or disprove my point and make this age like milk. But it seems like Mojang is just not allowed to do anything because it might break something on the Minecraft store. I might be completely off base here. I do not work for Mojang, nor do I know anything about the inner workings of Mojang, so I could be completely off base here, but I don't really think that's the case. It really does seem like Microsoft is just not allowing Mojang to interfere with their cash cow. And in fact, the most recent Minecraft Live kinda does prove this. Most of the stuff they're adding is purely cosmetic only. I mean, it's neat and all, but where's the new mobs? Where's the new content? Where's the new anything? And then suddenly the mob boat suddenly makes a lot more sense. They could easily implement all of these mobs, but they're only allowed to do one mob because Microsoft doesn't want to risk anything breaking. And that would also explain why certain things are insanely disappointing. Because, yeah, really think about that for a second. Have you noticed how a lot of the mobs are just kind of disappointing and kind of downgrades from what we were promised? Yeah, suddenly with that context in mind, suddenly this makes a lot more sense. Now again, that's just a theory. I don't work for Mojang, nor do I know anyone who works for Mojang and or Microsoft, so I cannot speak for that. I am just giving an observation.
Nice legal save.
Well, thank you, Mimo. I try to cover my tracks at the very least. But either way, that's actually all for now. If you enjoyed this video, well, I'm glad. If you didn't enjoy this video, oh well, I can't please everybody. If you by chance want to take any of my ideas and turn into a mod, or you know, take all of my ideas and turn into a mod, feel free to. I really don't care. Just whatever you do, don't paywall it. That's all I ask. And with that, I'll see you all next time. If there is a next time, because yeah, I've been pretty busy as of late. Anyways, goodbye.